Greetings. Welcome back to another entrance as we explore the Octatrack and walk through the threshold into the crystalline dome of hyperspace. I'm just kidding. That was my best Terrence McKenna impersonation, and so I just think Terrence is a great guy, and if you haven't heard of him, just go check him out. He's pretty amazing, and I think Terrence would approve of this music. So very, very smart individual. When he's not speaking about the exploration of the mind, he is just the amount of information and knowledge he has about history is so impressive. So you should definitely check him out if you haven't. But at any rate, so we're here to talk about the Octatrack today, and specifically I wanted to talk about the Arpeggiator, which is really a beast of a thing because it's more than just a regular arpeggiator. It's also a sequencer, and it has a bunch of functions that are really different from every other arpeggiator in the true sense of the word. And it's just like the Octatrack. It's kind of an anomaly, and you have to take some time with it to understand what you're doing and how it corresponds to what you want it to do. So at any rate, we're going to be taking a look at that. And right now, this amazing sequence you're hearing right now is the Octatrack. The MIDI section of the Octatrack is actually sequencing the K2. So I'll give you a quick shot of that. So over here, I have the K2 that's being triggered by the Octatrack. Actually the K2 is an MS-20 clone, super awesome synth in its own right, as well as the Neutron. The Neutron's pretty fabulous too. They're both really, you can get a lot of mileage out of them and tons of different tonality. That's about as far as I reach into the modular spectrum. These are semi-modular synths, and I find I can get pretty much any tone I need from them, and yeah, I don't expect myself to be going down the modular rabbit hole anytime soon. Just as an aside, I use the DeepMind as my main keyboard controller, and actually there's the synth part that you see playing right now. The lead line is actually the DeepMind, and there's software that comes with it, and actually it's pretty good. It runs standalone, and it's bi-directional USB. There's all types of other settings on it, but yeah, it's really easy to have a graphical representation of what the DeepMind has to offer, and maybe I'll make another video about that. I think it's a really great synth. I'm kind of going back and forth with it, but that's neither here nor there. It really does. It has a nice key bed. I'm not a keyboard player per se, or a piano player, or whatever, key player, but the key bed is nicer than say on some of the other more budget instruments that you find in the marketplace. But for me, the keys feel nice, so I like that. You know, they feel substantial. That's what I use as my master controller for all my other. So anyway, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the Octatrack and its MIDI functionality, which I will be the first to tell you is it's kind of it's a monster. So I'm not gonna give you the full total picture of what it does. I'm just gonna show you how I'm sequencing the K2 with the Octatrack, and then I'm using a variety of the K2 and the Neutron really work well together because they have the patch bay on the same side, and you can modulate different aspects. So right now, the Octatrack is sending the triggers to the K2. K2 is sending like envelopes and LFOs to the Neutron, and then in turn the Neutron is sending LFOs and envelopes and sample and hold modules, etc., back to the back to the K2. So, but the main basis of what you hear is the Octatrack Arpeggiator. So we're going to try and take a closer look at that. So let me get this screen looking decent, so we can get an idea of what it does. Which you know, a lot of people kind of frown on the Octatrack because it is hard to learn, and it is. I'm not going to pretend it's not. It's taken me a while, but that being said, I actually think that is kind of a blessing, to be honest. Because, I mean, I guess, you know, I'm a guitar player. I'll take it back to the guitar analogy. You know, guitar is the kind of thing where it's like it's a simple instrument, but it, you know, it can take a lifetime to master, and you may never master it. I mean, it might never happen. You know what I mean? Like, you could potentially do that for ages and never actually master it the way some people do. So there's beauty in its simplicity in the guitar, you know, and so the Octatrack is probably, I wouldn't say it's simple, but it is fun and it's deep, and that I think gives you a lot of different applications for what you want to do. So this is one instance of that, and we're going to discuss. Okay, so right now I have one track playing on the Octatrack, one MIDI track, I should say, and that is track 3. And on track 3, that's what I'm using to trigger the K2. Okay, so basically what's going on here is there's several different options here, which is really nice. But so you can obviously set the channel that you want to send MIDI out to. The Analog 4 actually does CD, which is interesting, but the Octatrack just does MIDI. And so you can have 8 independent MIDI channels all sending different MIDI information to 8 different instruments if you so desire. That would be amazing, somewhat convoluted and really hard to grasp, I found that because there's so many options, like, I mean, just this, what we're listening to right now, is interesting enough, right? Like, you don't need to necessarily use all 8 tracks, which I think is kind of more of a philosophical thing, or whatever, workflow related idea, is that just because you have everything at your disposal and, you know, whatever, sometimes the more cut down versions of songs or tracks or whatever are better. So anyway, so I'm only using one MIDI track, sending MIDI on channel 2 that's going to the K2, and there's a couple other aspects of what I have going on right now, but just as it relates to the MIDI sequencer, which is it's MIDI and it's a sequencer. It's an arpeggiator and it's a sequencer. So right now you can see it's similar to the way the Digitact is set up, in that it allows you to adjust like 4-note chords. So you can adjust all 4 notes across a keyboard to make like chord shapes, and that can be used as the trigger for the arpeggiator. So if I wanted to try to explain this in a way that would make sense, and hopefully you can get an idea for how it all works. Okay, because it was a little confusing when I first started. Okay, you see there's 16 steps. Well, there's actually 32 steps in this pattern. Okay, but that's just because I wanted to change it up a little bit. Alright, but this speed right here, this is the speed of the arpeggiator. So if I slow that down, or it's a multiplier, but at any rate, slowing it down speeds up the rate of the arpeggiation. So I'll take this, it works in multiples of 3, so we will take this down to 6, and you'll hear the arpeggiation sequence double. So this is, if you double tap on the ARP menu, you pull up the arpeggiator. So now you can see that at a speed of 6, multiple of 6 as well, you can run. Okay, it's kind of hard to explain. It's funny. Let me take it down to just 16 steps, so it doesn't get confusing. Okay, 16 steps at a speed of 6. It will play all the way through a pattern. Okay. So you can adjust the length, which I believe is done by the C knob over here. This is how you adjust the length of the arpeggiation. You can have it go all the way down to just 1 or 2 or 3. Okay. But I'm gonna do full 16. Okay, and also this is cool because it's really interesting the way that they have it set up. Okay, in this setting right here on the note page, it gives you a choice of the note that you want to use as your bass note. In this case, it's a C. And then underneath it gives you a choice of the second note, third note, fourth note in the chord. Okay, so the third and fourth notes are 0. Okay, so it's just going to play a C. But the second note, I have of 3 semitones from the C, which is a D sharp. But if I was to turn that back down, you'll hear it. And what I'll do is I'll adjust the filter on this so you can hear a little bit better on the K2. And you can hear all the modulation coming from the sampler hole of the module of the neutron. But at any rate, so when I hit this switch, if I turn it back down to 0, okay, so it's just playing a C. And then on the art page, this is the speed, okay? It does have a range, you can go up in octaves. This is how you transpose it. This is a legato mode, so it'll slide between notes. And this is the type of arpeggiation it's doing. But this is like the arpeggiator designer, right? And you can set the key that you want to have the arpeggiator run, and it will basically, it's like quantizing. I guess that's the way that they describe it in modular terms. You cannot break from this. If you just have all the notes, if you don't do anything with the extra notes in the chord, right? Then your arpeggiator will play in C minor no matter what note you choose in the scale. And the way you choose notes, like for example, let me get some of this delay off so you can hear it. And I got a cool little beat. Okay. Okay, so back to the MIDI. Okay. So if I double tap and I get my arpeggiator window up, I can change the notes of these. And you hold the key, hold the key 1, and then I can use the level knob to adjust. Let me get the D minor there. So now you can hear more clearly the notes that are being played. Killed one of the LFOs. That was making it modulate all over the place. Okay, so now we can hear clearly what's going on with this arpeggiator. Okay, so it's going to stay in the key of C minor as long as I set the key here. It'll stay in the key of C minor, which is nice because you want when you're playing, you want to be able to keep it in a certain key, and then that is important for overall cohesion. So, all right, and so let's change the speed back up to 6. Let's back up to 12 and see what happens. Okay, now that actually slowed down the rate at which the arpeggiator is playing. It's actually only playing the first 6 notes of, first 8 notes of the arpeggiator. So, the rate of the arpeggiator is directly related to the speed at which you're multiplying the arpeggiation. So again, if I go back down to 6, it's playing the arpeggiator faster, right? It gets all the way through all 16 notes. But I actually sped it up to make that happen. So it's almost like, if you think about it like zoom. You're zooming in when you increase or decrease. When you decrease the speed, you're zooming in. Okay. So this right here is just, I mean, I've been using this for 2 years. It's still hard to understand, but let's say we're in the key C minor. I'm going to adjust some of the notes on this, and you'll see what I mean. When it gets to a certain note, it actually will not. It will only go in the semitones of the scale that I've set it in, and it will not vary straight from that unless I do something else with the actual MIDI notes or whatever. So I'm going to go into this first one, and I'll bring it down to 0. Okay. So this note, watch what happens when I go up a half step. Nothing, right? Still playing the C. I'm gonna go up a whole step. Now it's playing a B. Or a D. Sorry. So it's just important to know that, I mean, it's cool because you can lock, and now it's back to playing the C. So you can lock it into playing specific intervals, if you will, based on the scale that you set. Super awesome. Like, that's, when I figured that out, it was kind of groundbreaking because I don't know, it's just a nice way to, keep everything consistent. And there are other, like I said, I'm not going to go too deep into this. I feel like I already have. There are other LFO settings that you can apply to the MIDI section, but since I'm queuing up, triggering some analog stuff, this won't really affect it, per se. Maybe there's some of the note values would, I guess. And we can try that. I'll actually try that. But other functions, I'm not sure they would work. How that note velocity, note length. So like note 2. Okay. Let's see what happens if we choose a random. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit convoluted, but so note 2. Okay, this is what we're trying to. I think I had it on 3. Okay, so now. Starting to get a little crazy. I have it on random, and this is where the arpeggiator and the MIDI settings of the LFOs gets really crazy, and that is why it's so hard to understand just as it is. Once you start getting into the way the LFOs work on the MIDI side, that's why I'm only using one track, because it gets crazy convoluted. You can do all kinds of different things, but you have to understand the way they all incorporate with each other. So anyway, all right, I'm going to turn this off because that is just going to confuse the crap out of me. Okay. All right, so now I'm just going to, anyway, I just wanted to show you that this will lock to whatever key signature you're using. And then I had it set, so I had it 2 bars, so it wouldn't be repeating itself over and over again. You can see these. Okay, so I'm trying to change the note value of the second note. So that is just a brief overview of the arpeggiator on the Octatrack. It is limitless in its scope, which I'm barely scratching the surface of what it can do. And this thing is a 10-year-old machine. It's kind of its own entity in the world of electronic music. It just doesn't really play like nice like other pieces of equipment does. But if you want to explore different dimensions of possibilities and different ideas and different random or pseudo-random creations, kind of go out there, go out of the box a little bit. This is perfect for that. So it's, again, and the triggers of the on the actual MIDI pages affect when it restarts. So right here, these are restarting on the second page. These are restarting the arpeggiator. So it plays normal for the first one. Let me get this LFO back in here. Okay, so now I'm in C minor, and let me bring in the D line to see what kind of other types of instrumentation I can overlay on top of this weird trippy sequence I have going. Okay, now I'm going to bring in the drums again. Thank you guys for hanging out. See you guys next time. Peace.